Goodbye Things by Fumio Sasaki. Introduction. Imagine a small apartment in Tokyo. Inside, there are books stacked so high they look like precarious, teetering skyscrapers. The floor is barely visible. A guitar, once a symbol of a dream, sits in a corner, its strings coated in a thick layer of dust. The closet is a time capsule of forgotten hobbies and expensive clothes that never quite fit, each item a ghost of a person the owner once hoped to be. Empty beer cans and half-finished projects litter every surface. This wasn't a scene from a movie. This was the daily reality for a man named Fumio Sasaki. He was in his 30s, working a respectable job as an editor, but inside, he felt like a failure. He was constantly comparing himself to others, to friends with their fancy condos and beautiful families, to strangers driving expensive cars. He was miserable, drowning in his possessions, and he felt like his life had completely stalled. He was a maximalist, believing, as so many of us do, that the more we have, the happier we will be. But then, something shifted. He discovered an idea so simple, yet so powerful, that it didn't just clean up his apartment, it rewired his entire understanding of happiness. He went from that cluttered, chaotic room to a space of serene emptiness. And in that emptiness, he found something incredible: himself. This is the story of Goodbye Things, a book that has quietly started a revolution, not with a shout, but with a whisper. It's a whisper that asks a profound question. What if happiness isn't found in acquiring more, but in letting go? Today, we're going to explore the journey of Fumio Sasaki. We're going to uncover why we, as human beings, are so driven to accumulate, and how our possessions can end up owning us. And by the end of our time together, I promise you, you will understand a powerful, counterintuitive secret to finding freedom, focus, and a deep sense of joy in your everyday life. This isn't just about tidying up. It's about discovering the life that's waiting for you underneath all the stuff. Book summary. So where does a story like this begin? It begins with a feeling I think we all know. That nagging sense that we are not enough. That if we just had that one more thing, that new phone, that cooler jacket, that bigger room, then, finally, we'd feel satisfied. Fumio Sasaki lived in that feeling for years. He thought his possessions made him interesting. His bookshelves were meant to shout, "I am an intellectual." His collection of antique cameras was supposed to say, "I am an artist." But the truth was, he hadn't read most of the books, and he'd never even put a roll of film in those beautiful cameras. His things weren't a reflection of his life. They were a costume he was wearing to hide his own insecurity. He was trapped in a cycle. He'd buy something, feel a brief flicker of joy, and then that feeling would fade. The new thing would become normal, just another piece of the clutter. And soon, he'd be looking for the next purchase to give him that temporary high. He was like a hamster on a wheel, running faster and faster but getting nowhere. But why? Why are we all so susceptible to this? Sasaki explains that our brains are wired for it. We are running on 50,000-year-old hardware. Our ancestors needed to notice change to survive, a rustle in the bushes, a new fruit on a tree. We are built to get used to things. That brand new dress is thrilling the first time you wear it. By the 10th time, it's just a dress. The excitement is gone. Our brain stops registering it as new and exciting. This is the great trap of materialism. The joy of getting something new is always temporary. No matter how much we get, we will always get used to it and, eventually, bored of it. We end up unhappy, not because we don't have enough, but because the very things we thought would bring us happiness have lost their magic. And it goes deeper than that. Sasaki realized that we, as social animals, have a profound need to feel worthy. We need to know that we have value in the eyes of others. In ancient times, your value to the tribe was clear: you were a good hunter, a wise elder, a caring parent. But in our complex modern world, how do we signal our worth? We use things. A luxury watch isn't just for telling time. It's a message that says, I am successful. A designer handbag isn't just for carrying keys. It's a symbol that says, I have taste. Sasaki was doing this with everything he owned. His possessions had become his identity. But the more he relied on his things to define him, the more he lost touch with who he actually was. He was spending all his time and energy managing, cleaning, and worrying about his possessions. The things that were supposed to serve him had become his masters. As he so perfectly puts it, the things you own end up owning you. This was his old life. Coming home from work exhausted, cracking open a beer to numb the feeling of dissatisfaction, pinching the fat around his stomach, and scrolling through social media, feeling a pang of jealousy with every post. He was stuck. The change for Sasaki began with a simple, radical idea: minimalism. Now, when we hear that word, we might picture a monk living in a bare cell. But that's not what he's talking about. He defines a minimalist as simply a person who knows what is truly essential for him or herself. It's not about a competition to see who can own the least. It's about a conscious decision to get rid of the excess so you can focus on what actually matters. It's a method, not a goal. And the purpose of the method is to find happiness. But how do you even start, when every object feels like a part of you, filled with memories or sunk costs? How do you let go? This is where Sasaki's journey becomes incredibly practical and wise. He realized that discarding things is a skill. You don't just wake up one day and become a minimalist, just like you don't wake up fluent in a new language. You have to practice. He started small. He began with things that were obviously junk: expired food in the fridge, broken appliances, clothes with holes in them. This built momentum. He was building his discarding muscle. Then he moved on to a simple but powerful rule: if you haven't used it in a year, get rid of it. That jacket that's been in the back of your closet for 3 winters? You probably don't need it. Those hobby supplies for a project you were going to start someday? He realized that someday never comes. By letting go of the idea of someday, he was freeing himself to live in the right now. But what about the sentimental things? The letters from friends, the souvenirs from a memorable trip, the drawings your little sibling made for you. This is often the hardest part. Sasaki came up with a beautiful solution. He took photos of them. He realized that throwing away an object is not the same as throwing away a memory. The memory lives inside you. By taking a picture, he could honor the object and the feeling it represented, but release himself from the burden of storing it. He took thousands of photos, and you know what he found? He almost never looked at them. The act of photographing them was enough to let go. In fact, he found that the memories he could recall without the help of an object were the ones that were truly important. As he went deeper, he started asking tougher questions about his possessions. He would hold an item and ask, am I keeping this because I truly love and use it, or am I keeping it for the sake of appearance? This simple question was a wrecking ball to his old identity. Those unread philosophy books? They were for appearance. The expensive, uncomfortable clothes? For appearance. He was slowly, intentionally, dismantling the false self he had built out of stuff. Perhaps his most powerful tool was this question: if I lost this, would I buy it again? Think about that for a moment. If your house burned down and you lost everything, what are the few things you would immediately go out and buy again? That list is probably very, very short. Those are your true essentials. Everything else is just stuff. As the piles of things began to shrink, something amazing started to happen. His apartment began to feel lighter, more open. And so did he. He describes 12 profound ways his life changed, and this is where the real magic of minimalism reveals itself. First, he found he had more time. So much more time. Think about it. All the time we spend shopping for things we don't need. The time we spend cleaning and organizing them. The time we spend looking for our keys or our wallet in a cluttered space. The time we spend working a job we might not love, just to pay for all those things. Sasaki estimates he can now pack up and move his entire apartment in 30 minutes. He gained hours every week, hours that he could now devote to things that actually brought him joy. Second, he experienced a new sense of freedom. His possessions had been like anchors, weighing him down. He had to live in a certain kind of apartment to hold all his stuff. He had to earn a certain amount of money to maintain it all. By letting go, he cut the ropes. He realized his minimum living costs were incredibly low. He could live happily on far less money than he thought, which meant he didn't have to be a slave to his job. He had the freedom to choose his work, to travel, to move, to live on his own terms. Third, and this is perhaps the most powerful change of all, he stopped comparing himself to others. The relentless cycle of comparison is fueled by material possessions. We compare our car to our neighbor's car, our phone to our friend's phone, our clothes to a celebrity's clothes. It's a game with no finish line. There will always be someone with something bigger, better, or newer. But when Sasaki stepped out of that game, he was free. He no longer felt that pang of envy or inadequacy. His focus shifted from what others had to what he was doing, from the outside world to his inner world. He discovered that experiences, unlike objects, are much harder to compare. A trip you take with a friend is uniquely yours. The joy from that memory doesn't fade, and you can't measure it against someone else's vacation. By choosing experiences over things, he found a more sustainable and personal form of happiness. He also stopped worrying about how others saw him. When your identity is no longer tied to your clothes or your collections, you stop being so self-conscious. He tells a story about Steve Jobs, who famously wore the same black turtleneck, jeans, and sneakers every day. Do you think Steve Jobs walked into a fancy store and worried about what people thought of his outfit? Of course not. He had more important things to think about. By simplifying his own wardrobe, Sasaki felt a similar liberation. He was free to just be himself. With all these changes came a newfound ability to focus. Sasaki describes our possessions as creating a silent to-do list. Every object in our field of vision sends a quiet message. The unread book whispers, "You should read me." The dirty dish says, "You need to wash me." The neglected hobby item sighs, "You've failed me." When you're surrounded by clutter, your brain is processing thousands of these tiny, draining messages all day long. It's no wonder we feel overwhelmed and unmotivated. But when he cleared his space, he cleared his mind. The silent noise stopped. He could finally concentrate on what was truly important, whether it was his work, his writing, or simply being present in the moment. This led to being more engaged with the world. The old Sasaki was a self-described introvert, paralyzed by a fear of failure and what others might think. But the new, minimalist Sasaki, with more time, freedom, and confidence, started trying new things. He took up scuba diving, started meditating, and even wrote this book, something his old self would have been too scared to even attempt. He learned that the regret from not doing something is far more painful than the regret from trying and failing. With nothing to lose, he had the courage to take risks. He also became healthier. He noticed that most minimalists he met were slim, and he himself lost about 22 pounds. He believes it's because when you reduce the stress and clutter in your life, you have fewer reasons to turn to food or alcohol for comfort. You become more in tune with your body's actual needs, rather than eating out of boredom or anxiety. And a clutter-free home is also a safer home. During an earthquake, our cherished possessions can become dangerous projectiles. By having less, he felt a deep sense of security. His relationships with people became deeper. With less time spent managing his things, he had more time for the people in his life. He wasn't distracted. He could be fully present in conversations. He realized that our homes can either be warehouses for our stuff or sanctuaries for connection. By choosing the latter, his relationships flourished. He learned that the secret to a happy life, confirmed by countless studies, isn't wealth or success, but the quality of our relationships. And finally, he learned to savor the present moment and feel true gratitude. When he was constantly chasing the next thing, he was always living in the future. I'll be happy when I get that. Or he was stuck in the past, holding on to objects that reminded him of who he used to be. By discarding things for the past and the future, he was left with only one thing: the now. And in the now, he discovered gratitude. When his apartment was overflowing, he never took the time to appreciate anything. But when he was left with only a few essential items, he began to feel a profound sense of gratitude for each one: for his bed that allowed him to rest, for his cup that held his tea, for the roof over his head. Gratitude, he realized, is the ultimate antidote to the boredom of getting used to things. It allows you to see the miracle in the mundane. This all culminates in the final, beautiful lesson of the book. Sasaki explores the science of happiness and points to a groundbreaking finding: our happiness is determined 50% by our genetics, 40% by our intentional actions, and only 10% by our life circumstances. Think about that. Only 10%. Our job, our income, our marital status, whether we live in a mansion or a small apartment, all of that only accounts for a tiny fraction of our happiness. Why? Because we get used to it. Winning the lottery brings a huge spike in joy, but a year later, most winners report being about as happy as they were before. The real power lies in that 40%, our daily actions. Happiness isn't a destination you arrive at. You don't become happy once you get married or buy a house. Happiness is something you feel, moment to moment, and it's generated by what you do. For Fumio Sasaki, minimalism was the key that unlocked that 40%. By saying goodbye to his things, he created the time, freedom, focus, and gratitude needed to fill his daily life with actions that brought him real, sustainable joy. He stopped trying to become happy and simply started feeling happy, right here, right now. He found that the most important thing in life isn't a thing at all. It's the person right in front of you. It's the experience of this very moment. It's the simple, profound joy of just being alive. Commentary. As we step back and look at the message of goodbye, things, it's clear that this is so much more than a book about decluttering. It's a quiet rebellion against a culture that is constantly screaming at us that we are not enough. Every advertisement, every social media feed, is a subtle reminder of what we lack. We are told that our value lies in what we own, what we achieve, and how we look. It's an exhausting and unwinnable game. Fumio Sasaki offers us a way out. He gives us permission to stop playing. His story is so powerful because he is not some enlightened guru speaking from a mountaintop. He is an ordinary person who felt the same pressures, insecurities, and dissatisfactions that we all do. He shows us that the path to a happier, more meaningful life doesn't require us to become someone else. It requires us to shed the things that are preventing us from being ourselves. What strikes me most is how this ancient wisdom, rooted in Zen philosophy, is more relevant today than ever before, especially for a young person navigating the world. You are living in an age of infinite choice and constant distraction. The pressure to build the perfect image, to accumulate the right things, is immense. This book is a powerful reminder that true confidence and originality don't come from the outside in. They come from the inside out. When you strip away the non-essential, you don't lose your individuality, you find it. So, how can you start to apply this in your own life, right now? It doesn't have to be a dramatic purge. It can start small. Here are a few simple actions inspired by Sasaki's journey. First, try the 1-year rule. Sometime this week, go to your closet or your drawers and find just one item of clothing you haven't worn in the last year. Don't overthink it. Just pick one thing, thank it for its service, and let it go. Put it in a donation bag. Notice how that feels. It's a small act of liberation. Second, practice the art of digital memory. Find one physical keepsake that you're holding on to out of sentimentality, maybe an old concert ticket, a photo, or a letter. Instead of letting it take up physical space, take a beautiful, clear photograph of it. Create a digital album for these memories. Then, see if you can let the physical object go. You'll find that the memory is not in the paper, it's in you. And third, cultivate a moment of gratitude. The next time you use a simple, everyday object that you enjoy, maybe it's your favorite pair of headphones, a comfortable hoodie, or the pen you love to write with, just pause for 3 seconds. Acknowledge it. Feel a tiny spark of appreciation for the role it plays in your life. This small habit, as Sasaki discovered, can fundamentally change your relationship with the world around you. That was the book summary of Goodbye, Things by Fumio Sasaki. We've explored the core of his message today, but a summary is like looking at a photograph of a beautiful landscape. It can show you the view, but it can't replace the feeling of the sun on your skin and the wind in your hair. The real transformation happens when you experience the book for yourself. It's in the quiet moments when one of Sasaki's simple, honest reflections connects with a part of you that you didn't even know was feeling weighed down. This summary is your map, to help you decide if this is a journey you want to take. If anything we've talked about today has sparked a feeling of curiosity or a flicker of hope, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning, it's an experience that can genuinely help you feel lighter, freer, and happier in your daily life. A link to the book is in the description. Also, if you found this journey valuable, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep growing and learning together.